Okay, so we're going to talk about Chapter 5, Section 5, solving equations with fractions. So let's recall for a minute how to solve an equation. First thing we're going to do is we are going to look at x plus 2 is equal to 5. X plus 2 equals 5. So how would I solve that? Well, everyone should be saying, I know. You're going to subtract 2 from both sides. If I subtract 2 from both sides, that's solving, that's working backwards. So I undo addition by subtracting from both sides, and I get x is equal to 3. If I asked you to solve x minus 2 equals 5, how do you undo subtraction? Well, you add. So you would add 2 to both sides. So x is equal to 7. All right? So we've done this, and we've done this with fractions now. We've done it with decimals. And now let's recall when we have multiplication and division. If I were to solve the equation 2x equals 10, 2x is equal to 10. Well, 2 times 2x means 2 times x. So to undo multiplication, you're going to divide. So if I divide one side by 2, I have to divide the other side by 2. And we find out that x is equal to 5. We've done this, and you guys all should remember how to do this. Then if we had an equation that looked like this, x divided by 3, or x over 3 equals 7. So this means division, so to undo division, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Alright, so if I multiply both sides by 3, remember the 3 in the numerator simplifies with the 3 in the denominator, and that turns into a 1x, or just plain x, and then if I multiply 7 times 3, I get 21. So we're going to put a combination of undoing multiplication by dividing and undoing dividing by multiplying. So let's take a look at how that works. Some of the problems they're going to give you are going to look like the ones you've done before, like the one we just did. Here's x over 8 is equal to 20. Well, it looks just like we've done before. So how do I undo division? I multiply. I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. If I multiply this side by 8, the 8's cancel, and if I multiply this side by 8, I get x is equal to 160. Now, sometimes the book is going to write it just a little bit differently. So let's take a look at how that looks. So if they write it, instead of saying x over 8 with a division bar, they say 1 over 8 times x. 1/8 times x. Think of it this way. The 1 is multiplying times x. The 8 is dividing x. So how do I get rid of an 8 in the denominator? Well, I'm going to put it in the numerator. So if I put x in the numerator, 8 in the numerator, I have to put it over here and multiply this side by 8. That simplifies to be a 1, and 8 times 20 is 160. These are the same problems. These two problems are the same. They're just written slightly different. Here, x divided by 8 looks like this. Here, it's 1/8 times x, but the 8 is in the denominator, so you'd have an x in the top and an 8 in the denominator. Your response is the same thing. I'm going to multiply both sides by 8. We're going to practice this a couple times. I just need you to recognize that it means the same thing. Alright, so let's go up here. This is the old way of writing it. We have x over 2 equals 15. X over 2 equals 15. So what would I do to both sides? I would multiply both sides by 2 because I want to get 1 is in the denominator, so I want to put it in the numerator so they cancel. And if I multiply this side by 2, the golden rule of algebra is that whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And when that cancels, I get an x, and when I multiply 2 times 15, that's 30. Because 30 divided by 2 is 15. That's what makes this work. All right, let's look at this one. Here we have 1/6 n. Now they're writing it a little bit differently, but there's a 6 in the denominator. So how do I get rid of the 6 in the denominator? I'm going to put a 6 in the numerator so they turn into a 1. So if I multiply this side by 6 over 1, so they cancel, I have to multiply this side by 6 over 1. The 6's cancel, so I designed it how I want it. I have 1/6, so I want to multiply by 6 over 1. When I cross that out, I get n by itself, and 12 times 6 over 1 is the same as just 12 times 6. It's 72. All right, let's try another one. This is the old way of writing it. C over 3. Some of the book will have it written like this, and some of it they might write the same problem, but they might say 1/3 C. It means the same thing. How do I undo division? I multiply. I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. When I do that, the 3's cancel, and I end up with a C on this side, and when I multiply this side by 3, 14 times 3 is 42. All right, so that is just a review of what we've done. This is what we've done in the past, and sometimes they're going to write it just a little bit differently. Instead of saying n over 6, they're going to say 1/6 n, but you'd still multiply both sides by 6. All right, now we're going to have a fraction, example 2. They're asking us to solve. We have 3/4 m is equal to 24. 3/4 m is equal to 24. So it's kind of like saying m is being multiplied by 3 and m is being divided by 4, because 4 is in the denominator. Things in the denominator divide, things in the numerator multiply. So how do I undo multiplying by 3? Well, I undo multiplying by 3 by dividing by 3. And how do I undo dividing by 4? I multiply by 4. So I'm going to multiply by what we call the reciprocal. If it's at 3/4 m, I'm going to multiply by 4/3. So the reciprocal is when you switch the numerator with the denominator and the denominator with the numerator. If I do that to this side, I have to do it to that side. Now I just have a fraction times a whole number. 24 times 4/3. I'm going to simplify the 3 and the 24 to make 8. I have 1's in the denominator, so it's going to be a whole number. And 8 times 4 is 32. And since that 1 is in the denominator, I know it's a whole number, 32. Okay, let's try another one of those before you try one on your own. I have 9/10 x. So the way this looks is I can look at it as if I'm multiplying by a 9 and dividing by a 10. So I want to undo both of those things all at one time. So to undo multiplying by 9, I'm going to divide by 9. And to undo dividing by 10, I'm going to multiply. So the 10 goes in the numerator, the 9 goes in the denominator. And then when I simplify these, the 9 simplify to be a 1 and the 10 simplify to be 1. So this whole thing becomes a 1, and that's exactly what I want. I want to know what 1x is going to be. So if I do this, if I multiply by 10 over 9 on this side, I have to multiply by 10 over 9 on this side. 9 simplifies with 18 and becomes a 2. 2 times 10 is 20. So x is equal to 20. And if I took 9/10 of 20, I'd get 18. All right, let's have you guys try one. So if I took 4/5 x is equal to 20. 4/5 x is equal to 20. That's just my work for later. 4/5 x is equal to 20. Go ahead and pause this and then turn it back on and I'll work it. Okay, hopefully you've worked this. We're going to undo multiplying by 4 and dividing by 5. We're going to do the opposite. So we're going to multiply by 5 and divide by 4. So if I do that to this side, I have to do the exact same thing to the other side. This I double check, those cancel and those cancel. Everything turns into 1s, and I have x by itself. And then I'm going to simplify. The 20 is in the numerator, so it's like it's over 1. So this 4 simplifies with the 20. 4 goes to a 1, 20 turns into a 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. And there's a 1 in the denominator, so I know it's a whole number. All right, let's try one more. Here, don't get excited that there's a fraction over here. You're just going to, whatever you choose to multiply both sides by, you're just going to use your fraction skills to find the answer. So you have 1/6 m is equal to 3/20. 1/6 m is equal to 3/20. Pause this, and then go ahead, try it, and then I'll work it through. All right, so we're going to see that we're going to multiply both sides by 6, or you could think of it as multiply it by 6 and divide it by 1. So multiply it by 6 over 1 on both sides. 6 cancels with 6, 1s are already 1s. I have m is equal to, well, the 20 and the 6 will simplify. I can take a 2 out of both of them. So this becomes a 3. Taking the 2 out, I get a 3, and taking a 2 out of there, I get a 10. Now there's nothing else I can simplify, so now I'm just going to multiply across. 3 times 3 is 9, 10 times 1 is 10. So m is equal to 9/10. All right, and that is how you solve equations with fractions.